قال إني أجد في بداني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبا طاهر من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلي له كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرات وادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك راهية طيبة كأنها راهية جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب عوذي قد أذنت لك فادخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرات وادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك راهية طيبة كأنها راهية جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء ودان الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن الحسين وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك راهية طيبة كأنها راية أخي وابني أمير رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو ما ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيلي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أباته يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بذأتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخصتي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يليموني ما يليمهم ويحزنوني ما يحزنهم. أنا هرب لمن هاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن آذاهم ومحب لمن أهابهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مذيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسير إلا في محبتي هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومأدين رسالتي، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبهلها وبنوها.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لكنا معهم سديسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي لا يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية وأرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسير إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذنا لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذنوا لي يا رسول الله؟ فدعا رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل ما أنا تحت الكساء فقال لي أبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال لي أبي يا رسول الله أخبرني لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذين بعثني بالحق نبيا وصدفاني بالرسالة نجي ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جميع شيئتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرجس وهفت به الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلا أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفز شيئتنا ورب الكعبة. وقال النبي شتيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبي وصدفني بالرسالة نجي ما ذكر خبرنا هذا لمحفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جميع من شيئتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف شفى الله غمه ولا طلبوا حاجاتي إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسئدنا وكذلك شيئتنا فزوا وسئدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب القضاء.
صلوات. ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا مدینہ ہوا ہے آج، عابد کے نور عین کا ماتم بپا ہے آج. ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا، معصوم ساتواں تھا یہ اور پانچواں امام، غم میں اسی کے چرسو آہو بکا ہے آج. غم میں اسی کے چرسو آہوں بکا ہے آج. ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا، آنکھوں میں کربلا کے مصائب سمیت کر رخصت جہاں سے دل برے عابد ہوا ہے آج. رخصت جہاں سے دل برے عابد ہوا ہے آج. ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا، معصوم کو زمانے نے زہر دگا دیا، کیسا ستم امام پہ یہ ہو گیا ہے آج. کیسا ستم امام پہ یہ ہو گیا ہے آج. ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا، ماتم ہے اس کا جو اٹھا عزادار کربلا. گھر مومنوں کا اس لیے ماتم سرا ہے آج. گھر مومنوں کا اس لیے ماتم سرا ہے آج. ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا، پرسا امام جعفر صادق کو دے رشید، ہاں ان کے سر سے باپ کا سایہ اٹھا ہے آج. ہاں ان کے سر سے باپ کا سایہ اٹھا ہے آج. ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا، مدینہ ہوا ہے آج عابد کے نورین کا ماتم بپا ہے آج ہر آنکھ نم ہے سونا. صلوات.
بار دیگر نعرہ صلوات اللہ
صلوات پر محمد و آل محمد.
صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
جب نوجواں پسر شہیدی سے جدا ہوا روشن خمر سے پہرے بری سے جدا ہوا نور نظر امام مبی سے جدا ہوا لخت جگر حسین عظیم سے جدا ہوا لخت جگر حسین عظیم
سے جدا ہوا
دل داغ ہو گیا دل جان بطول کا گھر بے چراغ ہو گیا سبت
رسول
گھر بے چراغ ہو گیا سبت
رسول کا
پیری میں آفت غم اولاد علامہ دل اور زخم خنجر فولاد علامہ وہ اضطراب خاطر ناشاد علامہ وہ اشک سوز اور وہ فریاد علامہ وہ اشک سوز اور وہ فریاد
علامہ
بیٹا نہ ہو تو زیست کا پھر کیا مزارہ جب گھر اجڑ گیا تو زمانے میں کیا رہا جب گھر اجڑ گیا تو زمانے میں
کیا رہا
پیارے نہ تھے حسین علیہ السلام کے لائی حرم سرا میں بہن ہاتھ تھام کے تھرا رہے تھے پاؤں شہ تش ناکام کے سردوش پر تھا زینب
علی مقام کے
سردوش پر تھا زینب
علی مقام کے
فرماتے تھے بہن علی اکبر گزر گئے ہم ایسے سخت جا کے تھے اب تک نہ مر گئے ہم ایسے سخت جا کے تھے اب تک نہ مر گئے یہ سن کے بیویوں کے جگر پر چھری چلی زینب زمیں پر گر کے پکاری کہ یا علی سر خفی جہاں کے ہے سب آپ پر جلی جاتا ہے سرکشوں میں یہ کونین کا ولی بے کس کو آسرا ہے پسر کا نہ بھائی کا بابا یہی تو وقت ہے مشکل کشائی کا بابا یہی تو وقت ہے مشکل کشائی کا فرمایا شہ نے ہاں سفر ناگزیر ہے آؤ گلے لگو کہ یہ صحبت اخیر ہے اب آرزو قرب خدائے قدیر ہے تنہا ہم سپاہ مخالف تنہا ہم سپاہ مخالف طے ہو یہ مرحلہ جو اعانت خدا کرے جس کا نہ کوئی دوست ہو بی وہ کیا کرے جس کا نہ کوئی دوست ہو بی وہ کیا کرے جانا ہے دور شب کو جو آنا نہ ہو ادھر ضد کر کے روئیوں نہ ہمیں چاہتی ہو گر پہلے پہل ہے آج شب فرقت پدر سو رہی ہو ماں کی چھاتی پر غربت سے رکھ کے سر سو رہی ہو ماں کی چھاتی پر غربت سے رکھ کے سر راحت کے دن گزر گئے یہ فصل اور ہے اب یوں بسر کرو کہ یتیم اب یوں بسر کرو کہ یتیم کا دور ہے ننھے سے ہاتھ جوڑ کے بولی وہ تشنہ کام بتلائیے مجھے یتیمی ہے کس کا نام آنکھوں سے خون بہا کے یہ کہنے لگے امام کھل جائے گا یہ درد و علام تم پہ تابشام کھل جائے گا یہ درد و علام تم بتاشام بی بی نہ پوچھو کچھ یہ مصیبت عظیم ہے مر جائے جس کا باپ و بچہ یتیم ہے مر جائے جس کا باپ و بچہ یتیم ہے
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی Muhammad. MashaAllah, great recitation by Brother Mohammed Hussain, who recited Hadith Qissa, Brother Kumail Ali Razvi, who recited Arf Salam, and Brother Heather Jaffrey, who recited Marcia. For their well-being, please recite aloud salawat. Allah. And now I'm going to invite Brother Ali Mehdi to give a few updates on Baqir. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, Mu'mineen. On the eve of the Shahadat of our beloved Imam, Imam Mohammed Baqir, alayhi salam, I send my condolences to you all and to the Imam of our time. He is one of the Masumeen buried in Jannatul Baqi, and during tonight's Majlis and Masaib of this great Imam, who was the witness of the greatest tragedy of Karbala and his horrible aftermath, his tragedy is still alive today. Please remember these three things: unmarked grave, uncovered grave, and unlit grave. On behalf of the Al-Baqi organization, I would love to thank you all on your generous financial and moral support, especially for this year's annual protest in Washington, D.C. Two updates on behalf of the organization. Our e-store on Baqi.org has officially been relaunched with all of our past t-shirt designs in all sizes. If you would like to purchase, please visit Baqi.org. This is a convenient resource for you all and for our supporters around the world to represent Al-Baqi. Also, for those who are going for Arba'een this year, details for the Al-Baqi mochas will be posted on our social media. Our last request is that we need help for our social media, especially for our newly launched Urdu Instagram page. If you would like to commit in translation and caption responsibilities, please contact me directly. Al-Baqi, Al-Baqi. Al-Baqi, Al-Baqi. Please recite aloud salawat.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, without taking any of your time, I would like to invite tonight's speaker, Brother Misam Jaffrey, to come on the minbar and recite the Majlis. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
But Muhammad wa Muhammad salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيد الأولين والآخرين ونبينا أبي القاسم ابن محمد والصلاة والسلام على آله الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد قال الله تعالى في كتاب المجيد وفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. Dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum. We are eternally blessed, profoundly lucky, and indefinitely grateful to our Rabb Allah for placing us in Shia households with the love of Prophet Muhammad and his progeny in our hearts. The love that we hold in our hearts for Prophet Muhammad and his Al keeps us on the straight path. This love that we hold keeps us going on Sirat al-Mustaqim. We read in the Quran, A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa Iyyaka nasta'een, Ihdinas Siratal Mustaqim, Siratal Ladhina an'amta alayhim, Ghayril Maghdubi alayhim waladh-dhalleen. Please recite a salawat. Allahumma. We recite this surah for Allah to keep us on the right path, because the love of Ahl Bayt is the right path. In fact, I'm going to take it one step further. The Ahl Bayt themselves are the straight path. They themselves are Sirat al-Mustaqim. We want to be on Sirat al-Mustaqim because we love our Ahl Bayt. So we want to be united with them. We want to be one with our Ahl Bayt. We don't interpret this surah as, oh Allah, bring us to the right path, as our brothers in Ahl Sunnah do. We interpret this as, Allah, keep us on the straight path, because as Shias, we know that the Quran and the Ahl Bayt is the right path, and this is what keeps us from going astray. As long as we hold on to these two weighty things as Rasulullah advised us to, we will be on the right path. However, we need to make sure we have full yaqeen on our Ahl Bayt. We also need to elevate our iman in the Quran. However, we cannot do this without having full faith in our Ahl Bayt, the walking and speaking embodiment of the Quran. They are the Quran-e-Natiq. Ahl Bayt is what keeps us tethered to our religion. We cannot do anything in our lives without that help that the Ahl Bayt provides us. It is not just enough to remember our Ahl Bayt in the times of our hardships that we have. We need to incorporate our Ahl Bayt into our times of happiness as well. If you get a good grade on a test, do shukr to your Ahl Bayt. If we're accepted into a prestigious school, do shukr to your Ahl Bayt. If you make even a sports team, do shukr to your Ahl Bayt that you made that sports team. If you find a good job, do shukr to your Ahl Bayt that you found this job. Because our Ahl Bayt is our wasila. Allah says to do dua to me through those special ones. Hazrat Adam was placed on this earth and did tawbah for years and years, decades, maybe centuries. However, his tawbah was finally accepted when he read a dua with the name of our Panjatan Panch in it. Ya Mahmud, Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Hazrat Adam read, Ya Mahmud bihaqqi Muhammad, Ya Ala bihaqqi Ali, Ya Fatirus Samawati wal Arz bihaqqi Fatima, Ya Ahsan bihaqqi Hasan, Ya Qadeemul Ahsan bihaqqi Husain. Always keep in mind that our Ahl Bayt are the greatest beings in the entire existence of this universe. Please recite aloud salawat. So I've stressed the fact that our Imams are not only spiritual leaders in previous majalis that we've conducted together. The job of an Imam is not only to tell you that namaz is wajib, roza is wajib, you should read Quran and have faith in Allah. Quite on the contrary, right? We've talked about this. Our Imam's job of leadership is all-encompassing. Yes, of course, our Imam is our spiritual leader. I'm not taking that away, but he is so much more than a spiritual leader for us. Our Imams have showed us leadership in every single way that we can possibly imagine. They've been leaders for us in spirituality. They've been leaders for us in the political realm. They've been leaders for us in the battlefield. Our Imams are the perfect embodiment of a leader in every single sense of the word leader. Now, as we all know, today is the martyrdom of our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Imam Baqir is no different from the four Imams that came before him. He was a leader in academics. He was a leader in politics. He was a leader in spirituality. He was even a leader in economics as well. Did you guys know that our Imam Mohammed Baqir was the man to devise the economic system for the Islamic Caliphate? For those of you guys who remember from the last Majlis, I want to stress again that the Islamic Caliphate is an area that encompasses all of modern-day Middle East, North Africa, and even as far east as modern-day Afghanistan as well. Let's take that into account for a second, that our Imam Baqir is the man who devised an economic system that's spanning over across 20 modern-day countries. It wasn't the wrongful caliphs who held control over the Islamic State that devised this system. Even they knew that they were the false leaders. All these false caliphs have came to our Imam time in and time out. The whole world knows Ali ma'al haq, wal haqqu ma'al Ali. And that haq doesn't just stay with Imam Ali. Haq travels down the bloodline of Bibi Fatima and Imam Ali. And it travels down until it reaches the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Zaman. Imam Baqir was born just a few years before the Battle of Karbala in the year 57 after Hijrah. He lived for 57 years and he died in the year 114 after Hijrah. Imam Baqir was alive and present during the time of Karbala when all of the women and all of the children were taken back to Kufa, and from Kufa to Sham, Imam Baqir was part of that caravan. Although at the time of Imam Baqir and Imam Jafar Sadiq, Banu Umayyah was declining in power, it doesn't mean that Imam Baqir had an easy imamate or an easy life. Quite on the contrary, none of our imams have had an easy imamate or an easy life. They've all faced trials and tribulations, but it's our job to take the lessons out of their trials and tribulations and see how they conducted themselves in their trials and tribulations and in their hardships. Please recite aloud salawat. So as I had mentioned, Imam Baqir was the man to devise the economic system that was used in the Islamic Caliphate. Now let me explain to you guys real quick the context of the geography of this part of the world during the rule of the Islamic Caliphate. To the west of the Islamic Caliphate, you had the Eastern Roman Empire that existed. Their capital was based out of Constantinople, now known as Istanbul. To the east of the Islamic Caliphate, you had the Sassanid Empire, which was based out of modern-day Iran. Both of these empires were very, very, very formidable forces and very ancient powers at the time in the known world. And in between these two very strong and ancient empires, you had the newly sprouted Islamic Caliphate that had come. Although by the time of Imam Baqir's imamate, the Sassanid Empire was no more due to the Arab takeover of Iran. And the Eastern Roman Empire had lost their lands in Greater Syria and Egypt. For those of you guys who don't know, Greater Syria would encompass the lands of Lebanon, Jordan, modern-day Palestine, Syria itself. This basically strip of land that is across the Mediterranean Sea that's known as the Levant now. So, however, both of these empires were so strong that even with the diminishing power of the Eastern Roman Empire, and in the case of the Sassanids who were totally wiped out, they were still strong enough to be able to leave behind an economic legacy. The Eastern Roman Empire, they used gold coins known as dinars, while the Sassanids used silver coins known as dirhams. The money that was used to the east and the west of the Islamic Empire was also used in the Islamic Empire itself. Now that's a key point that we have to note as we delve deeper into this story. Trade between different nations is a constant that's been around since the start of advanced human civilizations. No nation in this world can exist independently. From then up until now, nations have always had to collaborate to flourish. All the countries in the world that are superpowers work amongst themselves. Now, they may be working for their own self-interest, but we won't open Pandora's box today. Even the superpowers have to work together to get what they want, whether that be dominance over everyone else. Now, smaller countries, whether they like it or not, they need to cooperate with the larger nations to get what they want as well. All nations have to work together and trade so they can get what they want. And empires in Imam Baqir's time were no different. In fact, at that time, trade was probably even heavier. If the climate of Arabia didn't support a certain product, you simply couldn't make the product. You can't just engineer it the way we do nowadays. For example, when the silkworm nests and creates its cocoon so that it can go through its metamorphosis to become a silk moth, those fibers from the cocoon of the silkworm are then harvested and then turned into silk. Now, if a silkworm doesn't exist in Arabia, and it only exists in China, that means you have to go and trade with China if you want silk. If certain spices don't exist in Arabia, you have to go and trade with India, which was the spice hub at the time. Things then weren't how they are now. If you want to get some watermelon in winter, you can go to your local grocery store, and I'm sure we're going to be proof of this in Ramzan. When Ramzan comes in winter, we're not giving up our watermelons. You don't need to wait for it to be summer so that you can get watermelons. You can go in the wintertime to the local grocery store and pick up your watermelons. You don't even need to go travel across state lines or country lines to be able to pick up your watermelons. Anyways, now moving along with the story, I've laid out the context for you guys all geographically. Now let's delve deeper into how Imam Baqir has devised the system. Please recite a loud salawat. So, as I had mentioned, the Muslims were able to take Egypt from the Romans. However, since Egypt was formerly under the rule of the Romans, it was still taking some time for things to adapt and change. As some of you guys may know, Egypt at the time was the leading producer of paper in the entire world. They would make paper from the papyrus plant, which was originally found only in Egypt. All paper that came from Egypt, though, had a stamp that was on it when it was shipped out. One day, the caliph at the time of Imam Baqir's imamat, Abdul Malik bin Marwan, he asked out of curiosity one of his advisors, he asked them, what is this symbol that comes on the paper that we get from Egypt? And his advisor had basically translated that this symbol reads the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Obviously, the stamp of Christianity. Obviously, Abdul Malik bin Marwan, being an Islamic ruler, he can't allow this, because if he allowed it after understanding that this is a stamp of Christianity, he'd be kicked out of office. His khilafat would be questioned. So he tells the governor of Egypt, take this symbol off so that he can save himself and his position of khalifa. Just think about it for 1 second. How can an Islamic ruler support the idea of Christianity being spread in his own domain? It was not out of his love or passion or dilchaspi for Islam. Now, Abdul Malik bin Marwan, he ordered the governor of Egypt to take this stamp off the paper, and news had reached the emperor of Rome. Now, the Roman Empire, although Egypt, it's not in his domain anymore, but he wants to make sure that, obviously he believes that his religion is the true religion. So he wants to make sure that he can still continue to push Christianity forward. So he gets news of this, and he sends his ambassadors over to Abdul Malik bin Marwan. Twice he sent ambassadors to Abdul Malik ibn Marwan to approach him diplomatically. He sent him many, many gifts, but Abdul Malik bin Marwan, he refused the gifts and didn't change his decision. Now, the third time the emperor came and sent his ambassadors, they took a very different approach. This time, they told the caliph that if he didn't revoke his decision to remove the stamp from the paper, he would start to print gold coins with insults about the Prophet Muhammad on it. Now Abdul Malik had a problem on his hands because the Muslims were still using these Roman gold coins. How could they use money that had insults about their Prophet Muhammad on it? So one of his advisors told Abdul Malik, he said, Abdul Malik, you know what the solution is. You're just trying to avoid it. Everyone knew that the Imams had the answers to everything. If you were ever in a problem you couldn't figure out, the Imam could figure it out. When the caliphs had no idea what to do, even with the immense amount of hate they held for Ahl Bayt, they knew there was only one man that could fix whatever problem they were in, and it was their Imam-e-Waqt. Although these Umayyad and Abbasid caliphs were terrible, lanati human beings, may Allah remove His mercy from the caliphs of Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas, the one lesson we can learn from them is that the Imam of your time has the solutions to absolutely everything. They hated the Imams with everything that was in them, yet they had to swallow their own pride and go to their Imam-e-Waqt. Brothers, we are the lovers of Ahl Bayt. If Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas can go to their Imam-e-Waqt, why can we not go to Imam-e-Zamana with our problems? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Talk to your Imam. Tell him what trials and tribulations you're going through. He will help you. Imam Zamana has all the power in the world at his fingertips. All we need to do is ask him for his help. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Now, Imam Baqir agreed to help Abdul Malik. He did not hold a personal grudge for what Abdul Malik and his forefathers had done to his family. This is a huge lesson that we should take from Imam Baqir. Many of us bring personal grudges into our lives. Maybe you have a personal grudge against someone because they didn't say salam to you. Maybe you have a personal grudge against someone because they didn't shake your hand. Maybe you have a personal grudge against someone because they don't do azadari or matam the way that you want them to. We need to get rid of these personal grudges that we have for the betterment of our community. This is a lesson that we need to take from Imam Baqir. Imam Baqir put his petty differences aside with Banu Umayyah for the betterment of the ummah of his grandfather Rasulullah. Imam Baqir saw that the ummah needed his help. So he said that I will help and resolve this issue. So Imam was debriefed on what was happening. To which he replied, I have a very simple solution for you. This is not a huge problem at all. We'll call an expert goldsmith and make our own dirhams and dinars. Imam Baqir even gave them advice on what should be inscribed on the coins. He told them to make the mold of the coin in such a way that on one side we'll have Surah Ikhlas, and on the other side we'll have the Shahadat of Tawheed, La ilaha illallah, on the other side. And surrounding the writing on both of the sides, there would be the Shahada of the Nabuwah, the proof of Prophet Muhammad's Nabuwah. Imam even advised them to inscribe on the coin where the coin was made and when it was made. I know this probably rings some bells for you guys, because when I was a kid, I would look at different quarters at the back sides of them because they're all different, right? All quarters have a different backside and they're made in different states, different places, different times. Now we can thank Imam Baqir for that system that we have today. Think about it for a second. Our Imam helped save the image of Rasul Khuda and devised a new economic system which helped the Muslims become financially independent. And what is even more mind-boggling to think about is that the system of inscription that we have today on coins which tell us where and when they are made can also be attributed to Imam Baqir. The Imam then continued on and said that just making the coins isn't enough, Abdul Malik. He told the Caliph that you need to issue a proclamation from the government to standardize these coins. All the coins that are used in the Islamic Empire must be of the same size, weight, and value. If you have different coins, or if you have different gold coins with different amounts of gold in them, then it would be very confusing amongst people when they're buying. So Imam Baqir made sure to tell Abdul Malik that you need to standardize the currency as well. Just making coins isn't enough for us. Along with standardizing the coin, Imam Baqir told the Caliph that he had to make it compulsory for people to use the new coins of the Islamic Caliphate. Foreign coins would no longer be accepted in trade anymore. Now let's take a moment to please think about this. Now that we have the full story, let's take a moment to actually digest what we've heard. Like I've been saying, our Imams are not only leaders in fiqh masail. It's not only their job to tell us about namaz, roza, and hajj. Our Imams are the best leaders in everything. We can see that Imam Baqir devised and standardized the economic system that the Muslims use. And under the guidance of Imam Baqir, the Islamic Caliphate became a financially independent nation. They no longer needed to rely on the Romans or the Sassanids for money anymore. Thanks to Imam Baqir, the Islamic Caliphate shot up to new heights. It wasn't someone who was a known economist. It wasn't someone who was a known financial advisor who devised the system. It was our Imam Baqir who created this system. Our Imams had the guidance and knowledge of everything. Why do you think Imam Ali said, Saluni, Saluni, qabla an tafqiduni? Ask me before you lose me. He said, Saluni, Saluni, because he had the knowledge to guide you in everything. Imam Ali could have guided you in anything. If you wanted to learn how to be a good politician, Imam Ali could teach you. If you wanted to learn how to be a good warrior, Imam Ali could teach you. If you wanted to learn math, economics, astronomy, botany, whatever you wanted, Imam Ali could teach you. Out of respect for their grandfather, though, none of our Imams have made that claim of Saluni, Saluni. But by God, how knowledgeable must Imam Baqir be that his title is Baqirul Ulum. Baqir meaning to dig out, and Ulum being the plural of ilm in Arabic. He was the one to dig out multiple ilms. Not just one ilm, not two ilm, not three ilms. Imam Baqir dug out multiple ilms. Physics is ilm. Imam Baqir knew that. Chemistry is ilm. Imam Baqir knew that. Math is ilm. Imam Baqir knew that. Imam Baqir had the ilm of astronomy. Imam Baqir was Baqirul Ulum. How knowledgeable must have he been? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Out of all of the 12 Imams, he was the one to be known for ilm. He could have guided the ummah in the right direction and helped everyone. However, the ummah never availed his ilm the way they should have. They gave Imam Baqir trials and tribulations always. When Banu Umayyah realized that they could not get rid of Imam Baqir, they decided that it was time to get rid of this great man now. They could no longer compete with him. They had to murder the Imam. Banu Umayyah had mixed the poison in Imam Baqir's food that was so strong that Imam Jafar Sadiq, he narrates, he saw his father's skin turn a yellow from the effect of the poison. Banu Umayyah used specific poisons when they wanted to kill our Ahl Bayt. They were so strong that poison wasn't even ever used on an animal due to how cruel the effect of the poison would be. We all know about the poison from Ibn Muljam's sword. If a single drop of that poison went into the river, all of the fishes would die in that river. The poison that Imam Hassan ingested was so strong that he was throwing up pieces of his liver. The effect of the poison was so strong on Imam Hassan that even Bibi Zainab couldn't bear to see it. That same Zainab who saw her brother's arms cut off. That same Zainab who saw her brother's head severed from his body. That same Zainab who gave up her 2 sons in Karbala. That Zainab couldn't bear to see the effect of the poison on Imam Hassan. The poison was so strong that was used on Imam Baqir as well, that Imam Jafar Sadiq, he could barely even recognize the face of his father because his father's skin had turned from the natural pigmentation to such a yellow color. Now, my brothers and sisters, don't think though for 1 second that Imam Baqir's Shahadat was the start of his trials and tribulations. Imam Baqir had faced hardships from his young age all the way until his death. Imam Baqir was there in Karbala. He was only 4 years old at the time. But Imam Baqir was part of that caravan. He was whipped and slapped as well. He was forced to be thirsty. And he had to endure the pain of watching the Zulm Yazid put the Ahl Bayt through. When Imam Hussain came back to Khaymagan with Hazrat Qasim's body wrapped up in his chadar, he gave the pieces of Hazrat Qasim's body to Farwa and announced, Farwa, he said, Farwa, I have brought your Qasim back. Give Qasim your pursa, Farwa. Now imagine Imam Baqir, a 4-year-old child, standing there watching his uncle Qasim return back to the tents in pieces. Imam Baqir witnessed his family be butchered and slaughtered like animals. When Imam Hussain came back to the tent of the children with the alam, but no alamdar, Imam Baqir was part of those thirsty kids in the tent. When Imam Hussain carried the body of his 18-year-old son Hazrat Ali Akbar on his shoulders, he took the body of Hazrat Ali Akbar to the tents. He told Layla, Hazrat Ali Akbar's mother, he said, Layla, your son Akbar is no more. Give pursa to your son Akbar. Imam Baqir was standing there. He could see where the barchi was in Hazrat Ali Akbar's liver. Imam Baqir was there when his grandfather Imam Husain's head was severed from his body. He saw the people come and snatch the kafan from Imam Husain's body. He was there when the Yazidi army when Yazid ordered his army to sharpen the hooves of their horses so they could trample the body of Imam Hussain. Imam Baqir, he was there watching all of this unfold. Put yourself in this position of Imam Baqir. Put yourself in the mind of a 4-year-old child running from one burning tent to the other burning tent. Put yourself in the mind of a 4-year-old child who had to watch his puppy Sakina's earring be ripped from his ears and constantly watch his puppy Sakina beat so hard that her cheeks turned a blue color. Her cheeks lost the natural pigmentation because she was slapped so much by Shimmer that they turned a blue color. But the fact is that Imam Baqir his trials and tribulations did not end here. Just seeing Karbala itself was enough for someone to break. He had to see his grandfather lying on the burning sand of Karbala with no kafan for 3 days. Just the events of Karbala itself is enough to break someone. However, Imam Baqir's hardships continued and continued. Now we all know that the worst of the zulm was in Sham. When someone asked Imam Zainul Abidin, what was the worst part of Karbala? He replied back and cried, Asham, Asham, Asham. Imam Baqir lived through that Sham. He witnessed people throwing burning coals upon his grandmother Zainab. Imam Baqir saw Shimmer repeatedly whip his father. Imam Baqir was brought in chains from Kufa to Sham. He witnessed Ahle Sitamgar snatch the chadars from the women's heads. Think about it. How difficult must it have been for Imam Baqir to watch his aunts and cousins, the princesses of Arabia, walk through those marketplaces with no chadar on their head. Think about it. If someone took the hijab off of your mother or your sister's head, how would you feel? What would you want to do to that man? Now think about Imam Baqir in that position. His hands are tied in chains. He's taken everywhere in Russia. He can't do anything for his women. Now Imam Baqir had to witness the death of many people along his journey. However, what must have hurt more than the death of his puppy Sakina? When Bibi Sakina died, her body was so badly bruised from the whips of Shimmer, and her hair was thinning so much because Shimmer would grab her by the hair and pull her by her head. When Bibi Sakina died, her body was so badly bruised from these whips. Her hair was being lost. Her condition was so bad that the lady giving ghusl to her refused to give the ghusl because she thought that Bibi Sakina was a mareez. She thought that she was sick. How much must it have hurt Imam Baqir to have heard this? My imams, even in their times of death, they never forgot their Jad Imam Hussain. When Imam Jafar as-Sadiq tried to take care of Imam Baqir, to lay him down, to give him water, to simply give his father comfort in this time of agony, all Imam Baqir to think about was his grandfather, Imam Hussain. He would say to his son, "Oh Jafar, how can I sit here peacefully and lay down when my grandfather Hussain lay for 3 days on the burning sands of Karbala with the scars of the hooves of the horses on his chest? He lay there with the zakhams of the arrows and the swords, just a headless body on the plains of Karbala, no kafan to cover his body. How can I be at ease when my grandfather Hussain had no comfort in his time of Shahadat?" Hi Imam Baqir, Matum Hussain.
Hussain, 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 Hussain Jaan, Hussain Jaan, ہے حسین جان، 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 ہے علی کے لال شہ زمان، ہے علی کے لال شہ زمان، فتح کر لیے تو نے دو جہاں، فتح کر لیے تو نے دو جہاں، مسکرا اٹھا جب کہ بے زباں، مسکرا اٹھا جب کہ بے زباں، اے حسین جان، 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 تو پناہ دین، تو ہی شاہ دین، تو پناہ دین، تو ہی شاہ دین، وارث نبی کعبہ یقین، وارث نبی کعبہ یقین، نازش حرام حق کے پاس با، نازش حرام حق کے پاس با، اے حسین جان، 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 کربلا جہاد، کربلا قیام، کربلا جہاد، کربلا قیام، تو نے حشر تک دے دیا پیام، تو نے حشر تک دے دیا پیام، روح کربلا راز کن فقا، روح کربلا راز کن فقا، اے حسین جان، 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 مادر حسین دیتی ہے دعا، 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 گونجتی رہے بس یہی صدا، گونجتی رہے بس یہی صدا، فرش خاک سے تھا آسماں، فرش خاک سے تھا آسماں، اے حسین جان، 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 زندگی تمام ذکر کربلا، زندگی تمام ذکر کربلا، نصرت امام گریہ و بکا، نصرت امام گریہ و بکا، لب صبح و شام ہو یہی فغاں، لب صبح و شام ہو یہی فغاں، اے حسین جان، اے حسین جان، اے حسین جان،
یا حسین، 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 اللہم صلی علی
السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ، السلام علیکہ یا ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکہ یا ابن امیر المومنین، السلام علیکہ یا ابن فاطمۃ الزہرا، السلام علیکہ یا ابا الفضل العباس، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکہ یا غریب الغربا، السلام علیکہ یا علی ابن موسیٰ الرضا، السلام علیکہ یا رحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکہ یا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام علیکہ یا امام الانس والجان، السلام علیکہ یا شریک القرآن، السلام علیکہ ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
Inshallah, Taboot will be in the other hall.